Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, talking to you about this particular new moon happening on the 10th of March. It is now the 4th of March, cutting it a little short, but let's have a look. So firstly, we do have a very stunning stellium in the sky between Saturn, Moon, Sun, Fortune, Mercury and also Neptune. It is very, very wise not to get excited though, because we are still in Pisces. New moons usually give us new things and new beginnings, but here it is in the way of the psyche, it is in the way of the underworld, it is in the way of the unseen. So if you're wondering what this kind of new moon might produce or provide, I would suggest not manifesting anything and not doing too many things at once, although this moon looks very promising and very hyperactive and a communicative sign of Pisces. It is not a great time to do everything and to get to know everybody. It might even fall short. And sometimes there's like a shortness of breath or not enough energy, or you make an appointment and you don't go, or you forget about it. So it's not necessarily the best time to do anything unless you have Mars in Pisces or North Node. It is just a very, very aggressive moon as well, for being told what to do, with the Saturn right next to her. So she doesn't really like doing too much. And if we're going to also go on explaining the sky here, sure, there is Mars and Venus conjunct behind the stellium. So they are based in Aquarius. It is not a great time right now to overpromise or overspeak, oversay, simply because there's so much unnecessary stuff that sometimes people do or promise. And also there are things that we don't see happening underneath. So usually the house before the sun is a silent house. It is a dense energy that we do not know enough about, but it kind of aids, you know, it gives push, or it gives energy to the sun and what is around the sun, but it is still kind of in secret. So there is a secretive element to this Mars-Venus conjunction. I would not go on thinking, feeling, wishing, dreaming right now. I would probably, okay, buy what you want to buy, because it is a very interesting sky for purchases, because we do have this, I suppose, Venus, Mars at an aspect to this Uranus, Jupiter in Taurus. We definitely do have this nice square between those two fixed signs, aiding us in doing the best we can. Sometimes, for example, if you're going to buy anything, it may actually last and last, or it may be a good purchase. I don't believe that everybody needs to buy anything, but if you have been thinking, when am I going to buy that thing, that robust thing, or that thing that is going to keep on giving later on, maybe to some degree is going to be a good time, and you can trust this, but it kind of depends on you. Do you hoard stuff? Do you just enjoy splashing money around? Maybe to some degree. Also in terms of love and promises and things that are for keeps, yes, with a square between Jupiter, Uranus and Taurus, and Mars, Venus and Aquarius, this fixed square, it is very, very nice to see something happen that you would have keep on happening with time and keep on giving you something. So also very, very careful with promises and spoken word stuff though, because we do have this Mercury going into the ascendant line there, and eventually walking through Aries. But yeah, in this no man's land between Pisces and Aries, Mercury might simply promise or say something, then forget that he's done that. So although it is great to do something that are physical and real, I wonder if you really have to. I mean, I kind of wish you wouldn't, and the reason is because there is something underneath the surface with all that we're promising, doing, feeling, buying, thinking about and planning, because Pisces time is not really about this, unless you have Mars or North Node or Pluto, I don't know, in Pisces. So this is very, very harsh. I don't think you'd probably have Pluto in Pisces if you're still alive today, but like, yeah, it's just not a very nice energy to plan, and also to unnecessarily throw away the past and replace it with a new version. So I feel that it should not be made too big a deal what we're doing here. We should not rip for the new. We should not try to be too adventurous. We should just try to pack things in, even though there is a promising sky, kind of a promising sky, to do something different. in some ways, and some wake-up calls, I feel that a lot of people will have to do their dues. So as you just become aware that you would love to do something, you'd like to change your life, and it is a sky that is slightly lustful for me in terms of change and in terms of territories and in terms of significances, it may just be part of the past as soon as it becomes part of the present. Also having people that give you something and then take it away. For example, you've been promised a contract, and then the person just at the right minute, I don't know why it came out this way, just as the time comes, just says, oh, so sorry, I've already filled the place with someone else, or so sorry, I don't need your help anymore. So that feeling is very, very sulky and soggy for us. Also feeling redundant, being made redundant, it's not really about this, it's just about not having those promises come to fruit, or having it only for a little bit. And of course we do have Pluto in Aquarius, and we have Mars-Venus conjunction also in Aquarius, although some degrees apart from Pluto. It's very, very nice to give back to those who really matter to you, and I know it might be great to make a promise, to have a sudden merging of souls. It's very easy to suddenly fall in love with like a twin flame, or somebody that you find very popular, very beautiful, or very significant for some kind of a social reason, or some kind of like religious or spiritual reason. It may be not just them, you could be also marrying into a whole timeline or a family line. You may not actually want to do that. So people fall in love at a drop of a hat, of course, when there's Venus and Mars together in the sky. But it's not just about that. It can be a long-term commitment, but sometimes it is unsteady, and it could be just random. Like say this person that has not even left their family yet, you know, they still have their commitments and their children and their spouse elsewhere, or maybe a person that comes from a completely different cultural background, they don't speak your language, they don't understand what you're saying, but they seem very attractive and very beautiful, and they fill an image of what love is for you. So the feeling of what love is and the idea of what love is may be ruled by this situation in Aquarius, which is Pluto, Mars and Venus, telling you that it is about the arts, and it is about somebody who's famous, or it's about somebody who looks like Yoko Ono, or looks like, I don't know, David Bowie. It's like you want to like fill a place in your heart that may not actually necessarily have any cultural or vibrational significance. And people are definitely trying things out. You know, people are taking more medication, people are trying different gadgets, people want to fill their life with love, or certain goods that may not necessarily be a part of your story for that long, or it may not necessarily matter. But you know, here we have this connection to Jupiter and Uranus in fellow fixed sign of Taurus. So between Mars, Venus and Jupiter, Uranus, there is a fixed square, so that means you may as well keep it, you know. So this is the thing, it's like, oh, may as well keep it. So for example, you could be walking around trying to get something, like reap something from the stars. You might want to be with a person that has completely nothing to do with you and your family line or your circle of friends. You might want to be somebody or somewhere, you know, where it doesn't really matter in the end, and it could only be a week and a half, but the square between Mars, Venus and Jupiter, Uranus could be really much for realsies, which means you cannot take it back later. So for example, you're buying something, you think, oh, if it doesn't work out, I'll take it back later. Even if you take it back later, that item will probably travel back to you. So same with love and love for keeps. Even though you don't maybe necessarily want to commit to that person, or you don't want to fall in love with that particular type of presence, you may actually kind of necessarily have to drop what you're doing and do exactly what it wants. So this is about contracts and contract giving, not for every single person in the world, of course. But for some people, it's like, well, you said yes, and you cannot say no. So for example, you bought, so sorry about the noises outside, you bought something, like for example, a package of massages, and you paid for 10 massages, right? And you only had 1 or 2, and you realize that it's not really what you're looking for, and the masseuse is not really that attentive, or they're not very nice, but you've already got those 10 massages, and you're asking, can I give this gift card to somebody else? And they're like, no, you have to go and get those massages in, like, I don't know, 6 months or in 1 year or whatever time. So that's the thing I'm talking about, having uncomfortable cladding. So that's the thing, is evading all possibility sorry to be so intense, all possibility to be put into a situation where you simply don't want to be. Evading contact with people that might expect something later, evading payments, evading buying certain goods, especially if they're very big bulk buys. Also things that are very like good and fantastic on the outside might be made from crappy materials inside. So that's also something that we have to really release the pressure for. You might want like this amazing table for your house. It's a giant table for a huge family, but then you find out that it's actually made from crappy materials, or it's got a little bug infestation inside and it's just not going to be that good later on, or you may not need it, or you're buying it right before you have to move house. And imagine picking up this giant table with all of the other homeware and having to move it. For some people it's not too bad, but sometimes, like say for example, you might be moving to a much smaller place after this house for whatever reason, and that really giant purchase may look very impressive and exciting for a couple of weeks, but then eventually it's like, oh, what are we going to do with this? So buying in bulk, over promising, all systems of contracts have to leave. As we are slowly leaving Saturn behind in the sky, it's like you'll never catch me, you know. So things to do with money, things to do with bartering system, anything that is on card, anything that you're paying off eventually with time, or anything too fast too soon. For example, proposing marriage too fast too soon, getting dubbed into a certain collective or culture, anything too quick, and also anything that wants you to be on the extreme edge. For example, now you're driving this car you've never driven before, now you're going to do it, or now you're going and you're proposing, or now you are, I don't know, dyeing your hair black or dyeing your hair blonde. Like all of this very, very extreme, slightly exotic behavior is a little bit too far-fetched. And the question is it really your dream, or are you lying to yourself? This is a very important question to ask over and over again, and it might really damage your mind. So I suppose, like, for certain people it's fine to ask, does this have anything to do with you? Is this really what you want? It's good to ask, because we are in the realm of dreams in Pisces for sure. And in some cases it will not be answered. Even if you ask this question many times, the purpose of this question is lost within itself, because you won't know what to believe. And sometimes we have 4 or 5 different personalities. One says, I'm the homemaker, and I'll do anything to make a beautiful home. The other one says, for example, I'm a career person and I will put everything on the line for my job. And then another one says, I'm a free spirit and I want to travel the world. Nobody tells me what to do. So you might have 4 or 5 more personalities over the top of that. So that means that maybe Pisces didn't do that good a job at committing you to the one thing. Because what Pisces does is basically expands the world and kind of cleanses it. It rules the lymphatic system. It cleanses your life, it cleanses your words, it cleanses your thoughts, so the messages that you receive. And then eventually it should not be that hard to see who you are, because the whole purpose of Pisces is to kind of find that unity as without, so within. It's a little bit complicated. It's the most probably confusing sign at the moment, also very pragmatic sign with Saturn inside as well. So, you know, it's like kind of like going through its motions. It's like a giant freaking washing machine, and eventually what it should do is give you that one simple baseline result, which is what Aries is. It's about being just the one. It's about being just going for it. It's about getting further through just your own willpower, your own might, and your own sense of responsibility. And that's not going to probably happen for a lot of people if they're just doing what they think they should have been doing before also, because I'm noticing that a lot of these dreams people are spinning are based on how they did at school or what they were looking for in their 20s, you know, and it's not necessarily interesting at all. There are some people that really want to do whatever their ancestors did, and you know, it already kind of looks goofy, it looks stupid, you know. It doesn't feel like it would necessarily improve the quality of your time. It doesn't look like it would necessarily give anything to you. So yeah, it's kind of like, what am I going to do? So the best thing, and this is probably gonna feel very good for some people, not so good for other people, depending what kind of a person you are, is to release all tension and all of the self-esteem searching, definitely all questions of attainment, getting and buying and building and making, and try to breathe through it and don't do anything for now. Some people are like, yes, I get to have a day off, or yeah, I get to do nothing. And some people, well, they're not very nurtured by that idea because they are in March. They believe that the year started in January, and by gosh, it's the 3rd month. I'm running behind. I'm behind schedule. And that idea of being yada, yada, yada on the 3rd month of the year and having so much to do and so much to take care of is the worst part of this time, which is why each year I fight for the sake of others as well, in the knowledge or in the truth that the year actually starts with March and it never started with January. Maybe this doesn't matter to you, but I can see how a lot of people that believe we are on the 3rd month are really, really confused and conflicted. It's like, no, I got to get that momentum now. Like, the year has started, you know, in January. I have to get this momentum. I got to build up my strength. Well, the thing is, you don't need to. Even though we have the stellium in the 12th sign of Pisces, even though it looks like we got to go and do our best, and we got to go and we got to make sure that things are going on, it may not feel that big a deal later. It may not be the best. So this is just washing over last year's news. A lot of this is last year's news. Like, a lot of these purchases and values and systems and jobs and ideas and places and hairstyles and money making or money spending ventures are old. Old. This is old. Things are just over. It's over. It's over. So how to use this new moon? Because it is a new moon. So it's like, well, this is a manifestation moon, right? Like, you know, I can program things into my life. Okay, sure. So when you are here and you're like, okay, I want that renewal, I want that refreshing feeling that also Pisces gives, because it is kind of like a drink of cold water. It's beautiful. It's refreshing. And it's very guiding. The moon is very guiding. The thing you can here do is sleep, or you can just feel. It's nice to just sit there and feel. What are you feeling? Something comes up, especially if it's very juicy or very spicy. Like, you gotta go, you gotta buy that thing. Or like, you know, that person's been talking behind your back. Or like, hey, you know, your mother is expecting from you, you know, she needs you to call her, you know, all of this stuff. That needs to leave. So basically, the best feeling you would probably get from this time is a feeling of being within a nebula. This is the best feeling I could probably get. This is the best I could probably offer. The very best part of Pisces during this time, sorry about the noises outside. Here we go. So one of the best things is to feel safe and to feel a sense of completion and auric space. So that means that you are just sitting there and you're enjoying your life. You are drinking your cup of tea. You're doing your very simple things at home, as simple as you can get it. Nothing complicated, no complicated words, no complicated action, no complicated connection with anybody. The minute that it gets spicy, like you gotta, it's like, did you see that? Did you see this? Anything that's trying to sway your attention, anything like, for example, advertising that is telling you you're gonna get the best deal if you go to the store right now. All of that stuff, like, right now, you gotta do this right now. Everybody is giving you instructions, and also instructions inside yourself. I've just actually recently done a whole audio on this on my Patreon. This is the recent audios that I've done. And I talk for a whole hour about going into the psychic space of Pisces and how to cut out that part of you that tells you to do things and tells you to keep going when you really shouldn't have to. So the idea basically is to feel cleansed. And by the way, this is not like a bad thing, but by the time we end Pisces, we go into Aries, the smartest way to do it is like, whoa, I'm so dumb, I don't know what to do. That's the best. Why? What for? Because one of the most powerful things, don't be afraid of being dumb, because also Mercury is going into Aries. very soon after the moon. That feeling of being dumb and just being, ha ha ha, you know, my life is awesome. That is the feeling of youth and joy. We want to develop that. What? Wait. Your channel is meant to be a little bit smarter than that, Polina. Yes. Okay, so this feeling of freshness and the feeling of breathing life just as it is, and just enjoyment, you know, and doing what you want, that feeling we really need to develop by Aries. And how you do it is you forget and you forgive and you let go and you pretend it never even happened. And you stop dreaming the dreams you don't have to dream. So you don't buy the stuff you don't need. So you don't talk to people you don't like. So you don't go places you don't want to go. You don't see anybody that you don't want to see. You don't mean it. So you don't need to do it. Like, if you don't want to smile and, you know, keep on going with the charade, you shouldn't do the charade. So basically, as much as you can, give yourself the space not to be inside the game. And what is the game? Whoa. What is the game is doing what you don't need to do, poking about places where you don't need to be, being a battery for other people, judging other people, playing games, being in somebody else's pocket, doing stuff with somebody who doesn't matter to you later, making mistakes. I don't know, like, yeah, getting yourself into stuff that is actually not interesting and has nothing to do with you. Doing things that don't matter. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. And making plans that eventually don't eventuate, and feeling kind of very uncomfortable about what life is, and then eventually getting disgruntled, like, well, nobody told me, like, I bought all this stuff, nobody told me, like, I was about to move house, I didn't even know, like, oh wow, that guy, I thought he was the best, nobody told me he was married, nobody told me. So, like, basically not to be in that, dilute. And yeah, also another part of this moon is vengeance. Vengeance, oh my god. Okay, so if you already have some time that you've been brewing up a vengeance, oh my gosh, that's really hard. That just smacked me like a ton of brick. Okay, so if you've had relationships that have not eventuated, for example, if you're a mother of 4 and the daddy just went and he's doing his own thing and living his own life, and he's already made a new family and everything, you know, these feelings of like avenging another person, feeling vengeance for example, doing a course at university that you invested so much money and time into, and then realized that it was a useless degree. Being with somebody for a long time that eventually didn't care and didn't even tell you anything, they just left. Also having been robbed or put into a very uncomfortable situation. Somebody sold you something, turned out it was a fake. You know, for example, you thought you were buying a real Rembrandt, turned out to be a fake Rembrandt, and only later on you found out that was not real. You know, so that kind of feeling is going on. So the feeling for vengeance might be the only feeling left. So after you got the to-do list over and done, after you no longer need to run around making things happen, there might be that really big wake-up call of absolute anger and vengeance. And it could even be vengeance on yourself. You know, how dare I put myself into that situation? Why did I tell myself that was going to work out when it didn't? So wow, that's really messy. So what to do if you are looking at some very dark feelings on a new moon in Pisces? What is happening there? And you cannot make it any better. You cannot speak any better on behalf of yourself or that person. You cannot allow it to be the end, or you cannot allow it to be the truth. You're turning tables, trying different things, and no matter what, like, you feel guilty, for example, or no matter what, you feel powerless, or it could be more complicated. No matter what, you could have a disease, like you could have a tumor, or you could have ongoing illness that is coming back again and again. It might really plummet your health during this time. If you've got any anger issues, if you've got any, like, say, for example, self-harming thoughts, anything like that, that's going to probably become very obvious, and it'll just sit there. It's just going to sit there, and it's not going to move on very fast sometimes, unless you pray it off. maybe it is good to go to a spiritual or religious leader, or to have a baptism, or to go to a church or a cathedral or a mosque or a temple, anywhere where you would find your feet. Pisces rules the feet, you know, your unconscious system. Or you can go get some reflexology, or you can go get a massage, or you can do something that I've always done, which is just sit there for a while and relax. And that feeling comes out of you, and it's kind of like this whole big feeling. It's like a cloud that's just like raining, pouring rain and thunder. And then inevitably it starts to allow itself to leave, you know. So it's like feeling for the feelings, leaving them behind, or them leaving you behind. Sometimes it even gets lonely. It's like, whoa, I don't feel vengeful anymore. Or like, wow, I don't feel that bad about my mom anymore, actually. And here the things are not really thought about or even understood or felt. They're just over, and they're done when the time is right. How to make sure you don't take care of anything you shouldn't take care of, how to make sure you're not staying in dead relationships, how to make sure you're not with anybody that wishes you harm, how to make sure you no longer repeat the patterns of your parents, how to make sure you are no longer lazy with yourself, and that you know how to put yourself into a brighter, better, and more significant future. As we are talking future in Aries, as we go into the 21st, 22nd of March, it is going to be Aries central. How do we bring you up to the space where you don't worry and you blatantly go and live your life? That is quite a huge contrast between Pisces and Aries. You know, what you've done in the first place and what you're going to do today, it should always have been a contrast. Consider it done. It's nice for some people. It's very therapeutic to imagine things that have already passed and really know that they have passed. And Aquarius talked about things that you have reached and mastered. So for some people, unless they see a trophy on their cabinet, they do not believe that they have claimed something. So give yourself some pats on the back, some trophies. Feel that you've already done it. Listen to some music. Listen to some meditative music, or some chimes or bells, or even some nice relaxing conversations. Maybe even vicariously observe people. You know, do something very, very sweet and simple to try and take care of that which is just bulbous in your aura. Things that are bulbous in your aura. So this is outdated karmic issues, outdated language that you use with yourself or each other, outdated ideas, conversations, addictions. Sometimes, definitely, Pisces does like an addiction. Emotions, frustration, and all of these turning points that you haven't taken. For example, you've been offered a great job, you didn't take it, and now you feel that suffering of not taking the better job. Or you have met somebody that you really loved and you let them go for somebody else, and that somebody else betrayed you, and that person is still there, and you know, but they have a wife and children now, or they've got their own story. So like, this is the feeling of betrayal. This is the feeling of what's the worth anyway. This is the feeling of true toxicity. And if you have really toxic behavior come up, because this is actually a time where we see behavioral issues that are ingrained into the family tree, like argumentative behavior, poking faults in other people, disjointed energy, addiction, also like self-harming, any kind of criticism, like say of God, or like of life, of earth, of anything, like really bad, like oh woe's me, Hamlet style, I don't know, Othello style, sort of real toxic, negative, freakish, sad despair that could be facing us, as it is usually darkest before the dawn, you guys. Before we get into the first sign of Aries, the sign of Pisces might get pretty dark, and sometimes for certain people it might get pretty sweet, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's first combat the dragons. So yeah, and then eventually, so nerdy. Okay, so like, so eventually, basically, we have to balance things out. If there are rumors about you going around that are like very viral, for example, if you feel like there is just no avail, whoa, take as much time off as you can. If you like, you can go off somewhere like overseas, or you can escape. Escaping is not too bad. Like, you can escape prosecution. Some people are very good at weaseling themselves out. They can escape their job, and maybe people at this point will understand if you take a couple of weeks off. Maybe you need to do a lot of walking and breathing. Maybe there's another therapy that is right for you. There's like leeches, you know, there's like, I don't know, sunbeds. For some people, yeah. I had some fun with sunbeds in my time, although they can be also bad for your health. There are lots of people that do something that just makes them feel good, like they're going to just blast Chopin and listen to classical piano music all day and drink a little bit of wine, and that's their therapy. Everybody has a different type of therapy, but just make sure you're out of the guts of other people's lives. So being unseen, even if you take all your time watching Viking movies on repeat, even if that's your therapy, which is absolutely fine, even if it is like eating sugared cranberry from a bowl, and looking at Discovery Channel videos about bears and elk, sure, you know, that sometimes is a therapy. Peanut butter sandwiches, I don't know, and make it healthier for you. So also it's really good to drink a lot of water, apple cider vinegar, bicarbonate soda drinks in the morning, but only for some people. If you have low toxicity, it's better, because this could be dangerous also for your stomach. Turmeric, garlic, you know, salt water flush, things like that, just to be able to make at least some move towards the right direction. In some people's cases, they need something very epic to make themselves feel like they're healed. For example, they need to go to a temple covered head to toe in gold. Maybe it is buying a ginormous crystal, like a huge ginormous crystal for your house. Although, you know, remember what I said about purchases. For some people it is about shopping therapy, and that is so sad to see. But like in certain cases it is like about making friends with other people, maybe, although try to be polite and not in their all up in their business, because it's a really bad time to get into other people's business, and it's horrible time to talk about each other, because you'll take on all of that and you'll become it. So very careful talking about people for their weight, for their color, for their gender, for their ethnicity, any kind of minority groups, any kind of judgments, you know, Netanyahu this, Gaza that, you know, all of that stuff. Sorry to sound very trivial about it. It's very, very good to feel good about who you are at the end of the day, and not feel obliged also. No, mama said this and I should have done it, or daddy is expecting me to do this, or my husband is waiting for me, or my wife is expecting me to do this. It's like all of this stuff has to leave you alone. And actually, yeah, here is the culprit. At the base of this real betrayal, true toxicity, and feeling of absolute shame is somebody else's expectation on what life should have been for you. Leave it alone. You don't need it. Take time off, have a bath. And the only reason to get to know somebody, the only reason to go into anything and to be a part of it, is if you really know that it is good for you, and that you really wanna. You really, really want to. And most things you probably don't want to. If you, oh no, I want everything. No. If you actually go to the core, to the root of who you are, you probably don't want anything. Very rare does a person want something. Very, very rare. Sometimes, yeah, like you have like your plants, like say for example you have plants or animals, and yeah, you've got to spend time with them. You can't just forget over the holidays or over the weekend or whatever. You can't forget about them. You know, you got to keep on watering those plants and feeding those animals. Yeah, but it's more like a life chore. It's like a chore in some ways. It's not necessarily about wanting to, but yeah, sometimes people do want a giant garden, so they keep on buying plants. I get you. That's fine. We're going on a tangent, so let's come back to the question mark. What should you have discovered, or what should you have created? It's 34 minutes, I know. By the time that you get to Aries. So the question mark is, where is Aries going to be for you? Like, where is Aries for you? If you want, you can have a look at your chart. Like for me, Aries is my 5th house, so it's my heart originally. Maybe Aries is in a different place for you. What is Aries for you? What does it represent to you? Do you have any planets in Aries? This is huge. This is a big, banal, robust, heavy, durable, scary, slightly sexy time. Aries should not be just, yeah, you know, when you finish this, you start that. It's not like, oh, Pisces, you gotta like leave it alone, and then Aries, you gotta start this. It's not like this. By the way, that's not a bad thing. Like, I've noticed for a lot of people, when they go into Aries time, they've been so pushed outside of celebrating like equinox and, you know, solstice and stuff. They've been so outside of life. They are like, oh, I don't care. It's like the end of the 3rd month and the start of the 4th month. I don't care. I don't care. You know, it's not a good feeling. Some people are not prepared for it. Nobody knows what Aries is anymore. They don't care. I'm going to try and help you. So if you can, imagine like this nebula, this dance with the unconscious. Sometimes the dance with the atrocious, or the dance with the mystical being inside Pisces. For those people that have done very well, it's nothing but a dream. It's like, I just thought of it, and it happened. I just imagined it, and it, whoa, everything just happened. You know, it's like automated. That's where we want to be. Not every person is there. They still got some things to do. They still got some beef. Most people have some beef. And then basically, as we leave Pisces, which is the ultra feminine sign, and it's kind of like being within a nebula, or being inside the sac, you know, inside the womb. Then we have this screaming, atrocious, crazy, slightly intense time in Aries, and it is ugly, and it is scary, and it is bossy, and it is competitive, and it is worried for itself, and it is fully selfish. It's crazy, you know, and Aries should always have been that, you know. So when the baby walks into the world, it's not like, hey mom, hi, I'm here. It's not like that. It's like, I'm not sure if you've ever given birth or if you've ever seen a birth. It's not the nicest, most softest, most sweetest little time. The birth is a crazy time, and it is quite bloody, and it is quite real, and it's very brutal, and it's kind of hard sometimes. You know, back in the days, a lot of babies and mothers died during childbirth. So what I'm saying is, it is about the competitor. It's about survival of the fittest. It is about brawn. It is about, I don't care, I want to do my own thing, I don't care what you say. So it's really, really hard for some people to admire Aries energetically, as it is selfishness. So we're going into this month of Aries eventually, and I will be talking a lot about it during the equinox slash full moon video. I will be talking a lot about it, but we have to be very, very kind and careful and gentle and grown, and not let it get overboard, you know, while also like speaking well in Pisces. Because also why sometimes Aries could be really meaty and raw and crazy and overboard, especially in a dragon year, is simple because you haven't done the work, or the past generations haven't done the work. So if you're very vengeful, if you're sitting there planning your revenge in Pisces, you might go and do it in Aries, or something might happen to you or that person during Aries. So all this plotting and shameful feelings and anger and frustration, addictive behavior, everything that is hidden is very also quite fine to hide during Pisces, hidden. You will not be able to just see good results afterwards, you know. So it's kind of good to process it all. So coming back, you don't have to do this, but like I'm kind of feeling like, considering this is going to be quite a rough and very good for you and very strong, but also very rambunctious Aries time, very tough, very strong, very deep, very mean, very scary sometimes. We kind of have to participate in something maybe during Pisces to dilute it. Some people have prayer rooms. They have like a giant Buddha in their house. I don't know. They're like Russian Orthodox or whatever they are. I don't know. people praying, you know, people eating healthy, people being careful, keeping their body alkaline, making sure they don't get into anything, making sure that they don't pay anything that they shouldn't pay as well, and make it impossible to be reached. If you have a friend that calls you up and goes, oh my God, guess what happened to me today? Guess what she said to me today? No, you got to log off. You got to log off and keep logging off. In some ways, we cannot do any better than what we've done in the end. You know, so as we go through this last part of the cycle, we go through Pisces. If we cannot forgive and forget, if we cannot pass those thoughts and feelings, if we cannot just sleep through it, if we cannot just imagine it not to be in our lives, if we cannot retain ourselves from anger, if we cannot retain ourselves from acidic behavior, there is no way. So it's kind of like coming back to the void. So Aries comes and it's like Aries comes and pushes your buttons and gets angry at you and you know, like all of this stuff. It's like this angry teenager with like an electric guitar, like striking a few chords just as you're trying to go to sleep, you know, coming from your basement or coming from somebody else's house just next to you. You know what I mean? That's what Aries is going to be. So we have to be very courageous, and make sure that we face ourselves and our own demons during the last part of Pisces, so we don't have any of that dun 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 climatic endings or beginnings come Aries, and that you make sure that you don't have any last year's news in your new year. You know, so for example, you're still thinking about your ex, you're still painting the same painting, you're still going to the same place, you're still wearing the same stuff. Make sure like you put it away, like you put it in a box, or you just put it away like in a drawer. You just forget it, give it away. It was already time to give away, but not so likely to give away right now. Like we had like a few weeks to give things away. It's not the best. But some people will still have to do it, you know, like putting things on the side of the road, because you should not have these things in your house anymore. Like your Simpsons collection or your Pokemon cards, just put them in a box, god damn it. And then eventually we have to be there for you. We have to be there for you, and a lot of things will not be together. A lot of things will not stick unless you have it all pruned and primed and ready to go for the next year. And also the sun is pretty much directly opposite Lilith, Black Moon, Lilith and Virgo. If you don't have it yet, if you haven't done the thing you wanted to do, if you feel restless like a ghost without a body, like running around an empty mansion, you know, if you are really afraid of your skill set, or you're really worried, you keep on going for your accounts and you're crying and sweating, let it go. Like anything you can, just to make you not that person next year. That would be great. Thank you very much. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Check out the caption below, of course. And yes, of course, you can have a reading with me and such. Thank you very much. Enjoy, and I'll see you again.